Okay, I'm going to talk about veganism a little bit. Now, to clarify, I'm probably 98% vegetarian. Okay, I'm definitely not a vegan. I do consume a bit of dairy, and I consume chicken maybe once or twice a month. But what I'm going to do with this video is I'm going to point out some logical inconsistencies in the arguments that vegans will make, and in particular, one argument. Vegans will often claim that it is immoral to consume animal products. Now, if you're the vegan who minds their own business, just consumes your diet, you lead by example, I'm not talking to you, okay? I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. Again, lead by example, and don't point fingers at people who are perhaps displaying the behaviors that you view as immoral. Who I'm really speaking to is those vegans who, you point the fingers at the people for consuming animal products, and in doing so, you claim that moral high ground. You claim that you are morally superior. So, what are those arguments? What are those moral inconsistencies? Well, first, let's talk about milk. Okay, if you consume milk, it's not necessarily immoral. Okay, and how might that be? Well, if you have a cow in your backyard and you are caring for that cow, you're feeding that cow, there's nothing wrong with consuming that milk. You have a mutually beneficial relationship with that cow, and you can consume that milk in a perfectly moral manner. In fact, it might be more moral to consume that milk than to not. Okay, there is something moral to mutually beneficial relationships. There's a moral energy there that builds when you have a mutually beneficial relationship with somebody. It helps both the animals, right? As opposed to, let the cow go, maybe gets hit by a car. Okay, that's not good. Now, obviously, most of the milk consumed in the United States and beyond is not produced in someone's backyard, right? Most of it's on a factory farm. Okay, I hear you. That's definitely not a moral way to produce milk. Okay, and to consume milk. But again, just because you are consuming milk, it doesn't mean it's immoral. Okay, so that's one inconsistency in that 100% vegan mindset. And beyond that, you could buy organic milk, and that's a little better, right? But it's not perfect, again. But what else? Well, let's say an animal strolls into your backyard and it croaks, it just falls over dead right there. There's nothing immoral about consuming that animal that died naturally, okay? And the reason for that is because, what's going to happen to the animal? Maybe it gets scavenged, right? It's going to get scavenged by vultures or other predators, coyotes or something, and the microbes in the soil, right? But bottom line, if an animal dies naturally, if you didn't cause that death, you are morally justified in consuming the animal if you so choose. Now, obviously, you could make that argument that you should let the scavengers eat the animal. But then again, if you're going to argue that, then you have to argue that it's immoral to eat carrots out of the ground, because what if a rabbit wanted to eat that carrot, right? The bottom line here is that we are all the life forms in this ecosystem are competing for energy. So there's nothing immoral about eating the animal that dies in your backyard from natural causes. You can maybe argue that if you don't need that food and you're just eating it to gorge yourself, then it's immoral. But that's probably not the case necessarily. But again, it's another loophole here. Okay, it's definitely not immoral to consume an animal that died of natural causes. If you have a chicken coop and chicken dies every once in a while, nothing more immoral about eating that chicken. But what else? What's another moral inconsistency? Well, this is the big one, okay, and this is kind of the main point of this video. So, what vegans like to do is they like to compartmentalize the harm that people cause to animals through their diet, right? So they'll say that if you consume no animal products, you're not doing any harm to animals. That's absolutely untrue. The entire economy we have built as humans is structured around the infrastructure that destroys animal habitats. So if you go to a store and you buy anything on those store shelves, you, by extension, are contributing to the destruction of those animal habitats as a vegan. You're not consuming animal products directly, but you are indirectly harming the habitats and, by extension, the animals and the ecosystem, right? This is something vegans, this is an argument I've never heard vegans address. because perhaps it's a little inconvenient, right? You can reduce your animal consumption to zero, but if you're going to drive a car to work every day, you are contributing to the destruction of habitats that those roads that is needed to build those roads, or that is needed to build the supply chains that built your car. If you're watching this video right now, you contributed to the destruction of habitats that were required to bring all of the things together to build the screen you're looking at right now. Again, this is a big moral inconsistency. You can't claim you're morally superior to somebody who consumes animal products just because you don't consume animal products. Because, again, there are other pathways that you can harm animals beyond just your diet, okay? And that's kind of the point here. You can't compartmentalize the different types of harm and ignore the ones that are inconvenient to your argument. So, in reality, you could argue that somebody who is, perhaps 99% vegetarian, but is otherwise very environmentally conscious, say they ride a bike everywhere they go, you could argue that they are doing less harm to animals than the vegan who drives to work 30 miles back and forth every day. Again, if you want to boil it down to carbon footprints, then you could say that the person who rides their bike is lowering their carbon footprint. It has a lower carbon footprint in comparison to the vegan who drives a gas guzzler around all day, right? Now, you can try to justify your destruction of those animal habitats. You can say they're necessary, but the omnivore might argue that it's just as necessary to to eat the meat that they consume to stay healthy. Maybe they don't have the know-how to get to supplement and to fill in the nutritional gaps that vegans have to fill in, right? And by extension, it's easier to just drink a little milk and eat some chicken, right? As opposed to maybe, again, they don't have the know-how. They don't have the knowledge as to how to fill in those nutritional gaps that vegan diets have. And again, that supplement industry is contributing to the destruction of those animal habitats as well. So there is really no way to completely reduce your harm to animals to zero in this world. Back to that carrot example. If you're pulling a carrot out of the ground, you're eating it, you are taking energy away from a rabbit somewhere else. So if you're a vegan and you try to claim this moral high ground, and you perhaps fall into that category of radical vegan, I encourage you, stop pointing the finger. It's not helping you bring people to your side. It's not helping you create more vegans. The best thing you can do is to give them information, show them the benefits of a plant-based diet, a plant-dominant diet even. It doesn't have to be completely plant-based. Show them the benefits of a plant-dominant diet. And what will happen is people are going to learn. They're going to catch on to the overwhelming information that is showing benefits to that plant-based diet. And they will adopt it more and more, and perhaps they'll reduce their red meat consumption. And by extension, they'll help the environment beyond that too. If you're going to block butcher shops and you're going to block roadways to try to encourage people to become vegan, to adopt that vegan diet, it's not going to work. You're going to push people farther away from you. And if you want to see the proof of that, look at the carnivore diet. The carnivore diet is a pretty new phenomenon, right? It's always been around a little bit, but it's become very, very prevalent. Why? Well, probably because vegans started blocking butcher shops and roadways. Vegans started screaming at the people who eat animal products. And what was the reaction to that? Well, people went in the other direction. They didn't take your insults. They didn't look at your moral high ground you were claiming and decide that you were right and to become vegan. They looked at it and said, well, these guys are assholes. I'm going to eat more meat just to spite them. And that's exactly why the carnivore diet is so prevalent right now. Now, there are some anecdotes about benefits of the carnivore diet. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. Okay, and truth is, there's not a ton of research on it yet. There will be, but not yet. So, again, if you're a vegan, don't try to claim this moral high ground. Don't act in some condescending manner that looks down on the people who consume animal products, because you're not going to help yourself in the long term. You're going to basically you're going to increase the amount of animal products that people are consuming, because you're pushing them farther away from you. Again, people identify with the steaks they eat. Now, if you try to attack their identification, they're going to dig deeper. They're going to grasp that identification harder. If you just give them information, let them make decisions as they will, that's a much better option, okay? Maybe that carnivore rides a bike everywhere, and by extension, he reduces his carbon footprint. He reduces his contribution to animal harm in different ways than you do. Maybe that carnivore has a farm in his backyard, and he sells food that he doesn't even eat to the public. Maybe, bottom line, there's a lot of ways to reduce your harm to animals, and if you overlook the harm that you're doing to claim a moral high ground, you're going to push your opposition farther away from you. Okay, so again, don't be that screeching vegan, because it doesn't help people. It doesn't help bring people to your cause. Be the cool, calm, relaxed vegan who leads by example. Eat your vegan diet. Spread the good information. Show people the information that displays the benefits of a plant-based diet, and people will adopt it for their own health, right? To improve their own health. You can't force health on somebody, though. It doesn't work like that. People have to want to become healthier. And if they're being criticized all the time for their unhealthy habits, they're probably not going to listen to you. Show them the information, leave it at that. Let people do what they want. Okay? Thanks for watching.